Welcome back to another episode of Quick Picks with the Geek. I am your host, Bro Power the Geek. Buckle your chin straps and hide the folding chairs because this one is a beautiful mess waiting to happen. We've got a classic striker versus grappler showdown, except in this case, the grappler is also a low-key buzzsaw with the cardio of a mountain goat and the striking of a caffeine-powered piston. We got Nico Price versus Jacoby Smith. Let's talk about it. Nico, the hybrid Price, coming in as a plus 800 underdog with a record of 16-8. Look, Nico Price is MMA's version of a firecracker in a microwave. You don't know what's going to happen. You just know it's going to be loud, dangerous, and someone's probably losing an eyebrow. He has 10 knockouts, 10 first-round finishes, and the kind of chaos energy that makes him one of the most entertaining wildcards in UFC history. Remember that hammer fist KO from the bottom? That's not luck. That's certified Nico Price nonsense. He's like a spinning wheel of violence. Spin it once, wheel kick KO. Spin it again, illegal up kick. Spin it a third time, somehow gets caught in a buggy choke you've never heard of. But chaos has its limits. And in Price's case, those limits show up in the form of wrestling. He's been taken down, controlled, and smothered more times than a mattress tag at a jiu-jitsu tournament. His last fight against Themba Gorimbo was essentially a live-action grappling clinic, except Price was the dummy. And don't forget the Robbie Lawler fight where he basically got flash-fried like a mozzarella stick at the state fair. The dude's chin is legendary for holding up until it doesn't, and when it doesn't, the crash is hard and fast. But hey, he's got power, he's long, and he's always one elbow from an unthinkable angle away from flipping the script. Jacoby Cobb Smith, coming in as a minus 1,400 favorite with a record of 10-0. Okay, first of all, 1,400? That's not a betting line, that's your odds of surviving a horror movie if you split up from the group. Jacoby Smith is undefeated, terrifying, and built like someone who triple majored in ground control, violence, and not blinking. He's got the kind of wrestling credentials that make Dagestani kids raise an eyebrow, two-time NJCAA national champ, high school state champ, and a first-round finish rate that would make Francis Ngannou jealous. 8 of his 10 wins have come via knockout. 7 of those were in the first round. When this guy says, "I'm getting out of here early," he means he's getting out early. You're staying on the mat. In his UFC debut, he suplexed his opponent into a brief out-of-body experience, then followed up with punches like he was mad the guy woke up. He's not just a wrestler, he's a pressure cooker wrapped in muscle. If he gets on top of you, you're either giving up your back or giving up your will to fight. But, there's always a but, he's still green at the UFC level. We don't know how he handles someone who doesn't just go away after one takedown, and Nico Price is nothing if not durable, until he isn't. So who wins? Let's not overcomplicate this like a Paulo Costa tweet. Smith wants to slam Price onto the mat and pound on him until someone yells, "That's enough!" Price wants to throw a haymaker from full guard off his back while humming the Rocky theme. Smith will almost certainly get the takedown, and from there, it's just a matter of how long Nico can survive the onslaught. If Price can keep Smith standing for more than 2 minutes, chaos becomes a factor, and chaos is Nico's home address. But realistically, official pick, Jacoby Smith. It's hard to fade a guy this dominant against a fighter who's been wrestled into the earth's crust more times than a football tackling dummy. Smith by mauling, probably early, probably violent. Unless Nico rolls out of a takedown and lands a spinning heel kick from his kneecaps, this is Smith's fight to lose. And if he does lose, welp, that's Nico Price for you. Ladies and gentlemen, grab your popcorn, hide your grandma, and maybe put a tarp down, because this one's gonna be messy. We've got 2 dudes who treat defense like an optional college elective. Janata Diniz versus Alvin Guzzi Hines. That's right, Guzzi. If that nickname doesn't make you feel slightly uncomfortable and also oddly intrigued, I don't know what will. Let's talk about it. First up, Janata Diniz, coming in as a minus 200 favorite with a record of 8-1. Janata Diniz is what happens when you take a Muay Thai champion, add protein powder, and tell him, "Hey, have you ever thought about just punching people for money?" The dude hits like his fists are sponsored by Asimi Anvils. 7 knockouts and 8 wins. If he touches your chin, you're hearing Windows XP shutdown music. He's one of those heavyweight strikers who makes you question if leg kicks should be legal. Diniz will chop the tree, then burn the stump. And his strike accuracy is a spicy 53%, which means when he swings, he's not just windmilling like a drunk uncle at a barbecue. No, these are precision bombs. But, and this is a big heavyweight but, like Derek Lewis size, his ground game still has that just installed sticker on it. We saw it against Marcin Tybura. He looked like a UFC 2 character that hadn't unlocked his ground moves yet. Tybura took him down, and Deniz's offense was pretty much just vibe and pray. He's 33, so there's still time to improve that grappling. But let's be real. At heavyweight, most dudes don't learn wrestling late in life. They just buy takedown defense with good footwork and murder power. Next up is Alvin Goozy Hines, coming in at plus 170 with a record of 7-0 Goozy. My man's nickname sounds like the world's most dangerous Capri Sun, but he is not here to hydrate, he's here to hurt. Alvin Hines is undefeated, he's fast, violent, and most importantly, he has that undefeated confidence. Every one of his pro wins ends like he's late for dinner. Whether it's through nasty ground and pound, short elbows, or club and sub chaos, this dude gets business done fast. He's also not afraid to mix it up. He can throw hands in the clinch with dirty boxing, drag you to the mat, and finish from top position with the sort of elbows that should require a background check. He's got KO power and submission instincts, which means he's dangerous from just about anywhere. But, and I say this with love, his opponents so far, let's just say he's been out here beating up the regional scene's homeowners association board members. Guys like Taylor Escamilla and Billy Ray Valdez, who sound more like country singers than cage fighters. This is his first real test. So, who wins? If Goozy can survive the opening few minutes without getting his soul roundhouse kicked into the 300 section, he's got real tools. He mixes levels, gets inside well, and has an opportunistic submission game. He's also got that, I don't know what I don't know yet, kind of confidence, which can be weirdly effective. But Deniz is the better striker by 1.5 miles. It's not just power, it's poise. He knows where to place shots, how to time his combos, and if you come crashing in with chin high, you're gonna meet Mr. Canvas. That said, Deniz's ground game hasn't proven to be safe against guys who can chain wrestle or get on top. If Goozy gets him down and starts hammering elbows from mount, we could be looking at a shocking upset, but the most likely scenario? Official pick, Janata Deniz. He's the more experienced striker with far better technical tools. And in a fight where both guys want to come forward and throw hands, I'm trusting the guy who's been kickboxing longer than Goozy's probably had facial hair. If Deniz can stay upright, he should find a KO inside the first round. Goozy's game, but Deniz is aiming to bounce back and probably bounce someone's head off the canvas in the process. All right, folks, break out the antlers and middleweight madness because we've got ourselves a good old-fashioned coin flip banger between Cedriques the Reaper Dumas and Jackson the Moose McVeigh. Let's dive in and try to figure out which of these middleweights leaves with a win and which one gets his soul reaped, or antlered. Cedriques the Reaper Dumas, coming in as a minus 110 pick'em with a record of 10-3 Dumas, is an enigma, and not in the fun Batman villain way. He's the guy where you go, man, this guy could be really good if he just... and then he gets slept by Mikhail Alexiejczuk before you can finish the sentence. He's 3-3 in the UFC, wins over guys like Cody Brundage and Dennis Tiuliulin, which is like beating the lowest difficulty in a video game and still getting hit a lot. All 3 of his wins by decision. That's not necessarily bad, but for a guy nicknamed the Reaper, he's collecting judges' scorecards, not souls. His striking is powerful when he throws. Sometimes he stalks forward like he's trying to remember if he left the oven on. He has KO power for sure, but he's also been on the receiving end of KOs. Chin, not titanium. More like whatever's between ceramic and oh no. Now his wrestling, actually not bad. People forget that. It's just that his cardio betrays him faster than a reality TV alliance. He can grapple, he just can't grapple for more than 4 minutes without looking like he's buffering mid-fight. Also, not to be ignored, he's had some legal drama leading into this one. If even half the stuff floating around is true, then he's got more distractions than a toddler in a Chuck E. Cheese. And let's be real, no one fights great when the court clerk might be waiting backstage. Jackson, the Moose McVeigh, also minus 110, with a record of 6-0, ah yes, the Moose. You know you're dealing with some raw horsepower when a man picks the name of a 1,500-pound forest tank as his fight moniker. Moose are responsible for more injuries in Canada than hockey fights and bad poutine combined. Jackson McVeigh is perfect as a pro, 6-0. Not a single fight has gone the distance. This man finishes his opponents faster than your dad finishes mowing the lawn with a beer in hand. KOs, submissions. He's like an MMA buffet. You want hands? Got it. Chokes? Yep. Knees to the soul? Probably. Now he's coming from LFA, which is basically the UFC's version of Hogwarts for up-and-comers. It's where future killers go to learn how to maul professionally. And while his opponents weren't exactly UFC top 10, he wasn't crushing accountants and jiu-jitsu white belts either. The man earned the call-up. That said, he's never been in deep waters. We don't know if Jackson McVeigh can swim, doggy paddle, or start flailing like a tourist in shark-infested waters if the fight goes to round 2 or, God forbid, round 3. But hey, that's tomorrow's problem. So who wins? You know what we're dealing with here? The unstoppable Moose meets the inconsistent Reaper. On one hand, Cedriques has 6 UFC fights, which means he's had dinner at the big kids table. He knows what the octagon lights feel like. And if he actually shows up with his head on straight and wrestles, he could grind out a win here. But that's a big if. Recent drama, shaky chin, low volume, not exactly the ingredients for confidence. Meanwhile, Jackson McVeigh is a big ol' unknown. He's the MMA scratch-off ticket. He might be the next big thing, or he might realize halfway through the fight that the UFC is a lot scarier than LFA. But when you've got power, versatility, and no apparent fear of violence, that's worth keeping an eye on. Dumas wins if he grapples, conserves cardio, and stays focused. McVeigh wins if he does literally anything he's done in his first 6 fights. Official pick Jackson the Moose McVeigh. I can't pick Dumas when he's getting hit in court in the cage. McVeigh is younger, fresher, and brings violence like it's a care package. I'm siding with the guy who doesn't need to multitask between training and lawyers. Moose season is open. And I think this one ends before the judges get involved. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your butts. This is the fight where you absolutely, positively do not want to blink. This is not a 5-round chess match. This is the kind of fight that ends while Bruce Buffer is still exhaling from the word fighting. It's Terrence T-Rex McKinney versus Vyacheslav Slava Claus Borshev. And this one might be over before your pizza rolls cool down. Let's dig in. Terrence T-Rex McKinney, coming in as a -175 favorite with a record of 16-7 T-Rex, is what happens when you give a guy knockout power, D1 wrestling, and the attention span of a toddler in a candy store. Because make no mistake, McKinney can do it all for about 5 minutes. This man is a certified first-round assassin. 15 of his 16 wins, first round. You could watch his career highlights during a smoke break. He throws lightning-fast kicks, bombs in his hands, and the man has serious wrestling chops. We're talking takedowns that make NCAA coaches smile in their sleep. But here's the thing, he rarely uses the wrestling. Terrence is like a guy with a Ferrari in the garage who insists on taking a unicycle to work. Everyone's screaming, "Take the car, Terrence." And he's like, "Nah, I'm gonna throw hands with this kickboxer instead." He has 8 KOs, 8 submissions, and 0 chill. But cardio? That's where things get dicey. If this goes past the first round, Terrence starts looking like an NPC on low battery. And his chin? It's been touched more than a hotel TV remote. 5 knockout losses. If he can't nuke you early, things get dicey. But when he does decide to wrestle, man looks like Khabib with fireworks. We're talking suplexes, double legs, and rear naked chokes like it's Jiu-Jitsu Christmas. He needs to remember that in this one. Vyacheslav Slava Claus Borshev, coming in as a +150 dog with a record of 8-5 Slava Claus, doesn't bring you presents. He brings you body shots. This dude is a former kickboxing standout with nasty boxing technique, clean combos, and some of the best liver-seeking missiles this side of Boss Rutten. He's surgical with his strikes. Left hooks, right straights, leg kicks. This guy is the Russian striking department of the UFC. He's also got ice in his veins. Calm, poised, throws with precision. Slava doesn't brawl, he styles on you. But, and it's a big, takedown-sized but, he can't stop a wrestling takedown to save his life. Every wrestler he faces turns into Daniel Cormier on cheat codes. They pick him up, slam him down, and ride him like they're herding cattle. Grappling is his Achilles heel, and Terrence McKinney is basically an Achilles impersonator with double legs. If Slava Claus doesn't upgrade his sprawl, this may feel like a Russian Santa got trapped in a bad Hallmark wrestling montage. Still, if he can keep it standing for even a round, he's live. Slava's got that surgical power that doesn't need a wind-up. One clean shot to the body or chin, and McKinney's cardio bar goes from green to game over real fast. So who wins? If Terrence comes in smart, like real smart, he grabs Slava's legs like he's trying to win a game of duck, duck, goose and doesn't let go. If he shoots early and often, he'll control the fight, sap Slava's gas tank, and maybe even lock up a choke. But if Terrence wants to prove he can strike with the striker, we've seen this movie. And spoiler alert, it ends with a Russian man doing a dance in the middle of the octagon. McKinney's win comes from grappling, quick finishes, or chaos. Borshev wins with composure, counters, and body shot sorcery. Whoever gets their game off first might finish this in one. Official pick, Terrence McKinney. This isn't about who the better striker is, we know it's Slava Claus. But this is a bad style matchup for him unless Terrence throws away the game plan. If McKinney wrestles like he's supposed to, This one hits the mat faster than a drunk uncle at a wedding. Give me T-Rex by takedown tornado and early finish, but again, don't blink. This thing might end before you remember who's in the blue corner. All right, let's head down to the flyweight division where the cardio is high, the pace is relentless, and the hair stays perfectly in place for 3 rounds no matter how many scrambles happen. It's Vivi Araujo, a durable Brazilian with a black belt in jiu-jitsu and an engine that sometimes sputters in round 3 versus Tracy Cortez, the all-American wrestling machine with the pressure of a broken espresso machine, constant, loud, and mildly terrifying. Let's break it down. Vivi Araujo, coming in as a plus 185 underdog with a record of 13-6. Vivi Araujo is one of those fighters where you can never quite count her out, even if the odds and Father Time are both working against her. She just upset Karine Silva, which nobody saw coming. Well, nobody except Araujo, who probably stared into a mirror, nodded to herself and said in Portuguese, "Not today, Jiu-Jitsu Barbie. She's a tough customer, never been finished in the UFC. You could hit her with a folding chair and she'd keep walking forward like it owed her money. Her grappling is legit, her striking has improved, and she doesn't panic in scrambles. In fact, she often wins the scrambles. But, and it's a big but, like heavyweight level, she's 38 years old. And I'm not age shaming, but let's be honest, this division moves fast. And Vivi's cardio sometimes shows up looking like it hit snooze 3 times and missed the team bus. Her success is often tied to who controls the pace. When she's on the front foot, dictating terms with pressure, clinch work, and takedowns, she looks great. But when someone pushes her back, makes her react, and especially makes her wrestle backwards, she starts to fade like an 80s rock star in the 3rd round. Still, she's a veteran, crafty, tough, knows how to drag people into awkward exchanges. Just don't ask her to win a sprint, or a marathon, or really anything that starts with, "Hey, let's keep a high pace." Tracy Cortez coming in as a minus 230 favorite with a record of 11-2 Tracy Cortez fights, like she's trying to install new flooring. Grind you down, apply pressure, and leave no room to breathe. Her wrestling is her bread and butter. She's like a living blanket, except this blanket punches you and whispers, "Stay down." Cortez has built her game around top control, positional dominance, and that signature, "I'm going to make you question your life choices in round 2" pressure. She's not flashy. She's not out here doing flying knees or spinning wheel kicks. She's out here dragging people down and smothering them like guacamole at a family taco night. What's great is that she doesn't gas. You know how some fighters hit the 3rd round like they just ran a Tough Mudder? Cortez hits round 3 like it's another Tuesday at Planet Fitness. Now, her striking is still catching up. She's not winning any Muay Thai tournaments, but she's gotten comfortable enough on the feet to mix it up while she waits for that perfect double leg entry. This fight is going to tell us one major thing. Can Cortez keep up her wrestling heavy pace without getting reversed or subbed by a BJJ black belt? Or will Vivi's veteran trickery and improved hands make her pay? So, who wins? This fight is all about control, and no, not the Janet Jackson kind. I'm talking positional control, cage control, and whether Cortez can keep Vivi grounded longer than Vivi's cardio can stay upright. If Araujo can stuff the early takedowns, throw heavy counters, and make Tracy pay on the feet, she could absolutely steal rounds. She's got enough power and experience to make it tricky. But if Cortez gets just 1 takedown in the 1st round and holds her there long enough to make Araujo sigh like a mom stuck in traffic, it could snowball fast. She doesn't need to do damage, just be there, in your face, in your space, on your back. Araujo wins if she can keep it standing and force scrambles to turn the tide. Cortez wins if she does Cortez things trademark and wrestles her into the canvas like she's competing for a gold medal in blanket origami. Official pick, Tracy Cortez. She's younger, has the better gas tank, and the skill set to frustrate a fighter like Vivi, especially late. As long as she doesn't get reversed and tapped, I think she blankets her way to a win. So pack your lunch, set your pace, and prepare for 15 minutes of wrestling, sweat, and judges who may or may not be on their phones. Team Moose Hug by decision. All right, featherweight fans, crack open a protein shake and cancel your cardio session because we've got a banger incoming. It's Hyder, the Hurricane Amel versus Jose Delgado. They're allergic to boring fights. If you like controlled violence with a hint of chaos and a dash of takedown seasoning, this one's for you. Let's break it down. Hyder, the Hurricane Amel, coming in as a plus 130 underdog with a record of 11-0. Now listen, when you nickname yourself the Hurricane, you better not be a point fighter. Lucky for us, Haider Amil fights like he's trying to take down a small building. This guy throws bombs, like the kind of overhands that require FAA clearance. He's wild, aggressive, and apparently bulletproof. He fought through a torn MCL and bicep like it was a paper cut. Most of us complain when our Wi-Fi goes out. Haider was checking leg kicks while his knee was hanging on with dental floss. He beat William Gomez in a close decision and smoked Zhongyong Li in the first round like it was personal. Haider doesn't take time to feel out a fight. He shows up with a mouthpiece in and a mission. End this early or go out swinging like he's auditioning for a Fast and Furious sequel. His one weakness? He's not exactly a grappling savant. Don't get it twisted, he can scramble, he can stuff, and he'll throw elbows from weird angles. But if someone with a real wrestling base drags him into the deep water, he might start flailing like a Sims character in a pool without a ladder. Still, you can't teach that kind of dog in a fighter. Haider's heart, chin, and killer instinct are elite. He's one of those guys who might look like he's losing, then suddenly snipes your soul with a left hook and ends your night. Jose Delgado coming in as a -150 favorite with a record of 9-1, ladies and gentlemen. Please keep your arms and legs inside the cage at all times, because Jose Delgado fights like he's late to a buffet and you're standing in front of the crab legs. This dude is pressure incarnate. He comes forward like a tank with a wrestling singlet and a grudge. His game plan is simple: touch you on the feet, blast a double leg into next week, and turn your ribcage into a xylophone with ground and pound. 5 knockouts, 4 submissions, and 6 first-round finishes. That's not a record, that's a criminal history. He mixes his striking and takedowns so well, you forget whether you're defending a jab or a suplex. It's like fighting a blender. And he doesn't get tired. He's got that farm boy cardio where he could dig a well, wrestle a goat, and then still jog 5 miles home. Now, he's not without flaws. His chin hasn't been tested against a true knockout artist at the UFC level. And technically, his striking can be a little barbecue brawl, if you know what I mean. But he makes up for it by turning every fight into a bear fight in a phone booth. If he doesn't get cracked early, Delgado will be all over you like bad credit. So, who wins? Haider wants a war. He wants a slobber knocker. He wants punches flying, blood leaking, fans screaming, and Dana White fanning himself cage side like he just saw a tax return with a comma. Jose, he wants the opposite. He wants to grind. He wants to mix it up and smother the hurricane before it starts spinning. Think of him as the guy trying to slap a roof on the tornado with duct tape and a double leg. If Haider catches Jose early, it could be nap time in the first round. But if Jose gets inside, clinches up, and makes this ugly, he'll drown Haider under pressure and pull away late. Official pick: Jose Delgado. I think Haider's a future star and a walking highlight reel, but his let's bang bro style might finally get countered here. Delgado's pace, wrestling, and chin-checking pressure should be enough to win this fight, assuming he doesn't run into a flying knee on the way to the takedown buffet. Still, buckle up, this one's gonna be like watching 2 lawnmowers fight in a junkyard. Beautiful chaos. Welcome to your regularly scheduled episode of Can Jack Hermansson turn back the clock, or will Gregory Rodriguez turn him into Swedish IKEA furniture? Because this one's got it all: grappling credentials, knockout power, questionable chins, mysterious cardio meters, and a guy nicknamed RoboCop, who somehow has better hair than the actual RoboCop. Let's roll. Jack the Joker Hermansson coming in as a +155 underdog with a record of 24-8. All right, Jack Hermansson, aka the Joker, is back. After a 16-month layoff that included shoulder surgery, coaching gigs, and probably some serious Netflix marathons, he's one of those fighters that just feels like he's been in the UFC since the beginning of time. Like you don't remember a card without Jack on it. He's coming off a win over Joe Pyfer where he looked like a tax accountant for the first round, and then turned into a technician in rounds 2 and 3. The man downloaded Pyfer's game like it was on dial-up and proceeded to frustrate the hell out of him with smart striking and that late takedown flex. Jack's got solid fundamentals, great leg kicks, reliable jab, underrated top game, and a jiu-jitsu black belt that comes with Scandinavian work ethic mode pre-installed. He's not flashy, but he's crafty. You're not going to see him do spinning hook kicks or flying triangles, but what you will see is a guy who breaks opponents with pace, pressure, and weirdly effective hammer fists from top position. But there's always a but. His chin has seen better days. And let's face it, at 36 with a recent injury layoff, the athleticism tax man may be knocking on the door. Also, fun stat, Jack has alternated wins and losses like he's morally obligated to keep it 50-50ths. So if he wins one, he loses one. It's the MMA version of being cursed by a scheduling algorithm. Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez coming in as a minus 185 favorite with a record of 16-6. Now here comes Gregory Rodriguez, aka RoboCop, a nickname that sounds intimidating until you remember the real RoboCop had the mobility of a refrigerator full of concrete. This man is built like a lab experiment where someone just typed max power into the settings and hit save. And when he lets his hands go, oh boy, you can hear the air shatter. He throws bombs, he slams people, and when he gets on top, he hits you with that ground and pound like he's trying to open a coconut. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt too, but that part's almost a footnote now because everyone's so scared of his Muay Thai Terminator mode. Rodriguez has some big pros: finishing power, slick jits, surprisingly good wrestling, and the body of a gladiator carved from granite and creatine. But here's the kicker. His defense is a work in progress. And by in progress, I mean he walks forward with his chin out like he's trying to catch flies with it. He's been rocked, wobbled, cut open like a watermelon, and knocked out more than once. And then there's the cardio. Look, if you're betting on a round 4 from RoboCop, you're living dangerously. He gassed out against Cannonier so hard it looked like someone hit the low battery icon in real time. But when he's fresh, he is terrifying. Like, don't blink or your favorite fighter's career might end terrifying. So, who wins? We've got a classic style clash here. Hermansson wants this to be a technical chess match with some top control, slick scrambles, and maybe even a little elbow seasoning for Mount. Rodriguez wants this to be a demolition derby in a phone booth, preferably before he starts breathing with his mouth wide open. If Hermansson can survive the early chaos and start implementing his jab and low kicks, he can frustrate RoboCop into an error. And if Jack gets on top, Gregory might be in unfamiliar waters. Hermansson doesn't have RoboCop's raw athleticism, but he's crafty, man. Like, don't leave him alone with your bank info crafty. But if Gregory blitzes early and lands clean, that's a wrap. Jack's chin doesn't love sudden violence, and RoboCop doesn't do subtle. Official pick, Gregory Rodriguez. I'm going with the RoboCop reboot. I think the power's real, the pressure's legit. And even if Hermansson stays crafty, the damage is going to pile up. Gregory finds a way to crash through Jack's defense before the fight gets to the tactical stages. Rodriguez by TKO in a good old-fashioned please someone work on head movement banger. Prepare for violence, and possibly a bonus. Alright folks, we're heading into the jungle for this one, literally. Felipe Jungle Boy Lima is back, vine swinging, and he's taking on the previously untouchable, until he touched Raoni Barcelos and instantly regretted it, Peyton Talbot. This is a battle of potential versus polish, hype versus hunger, and possibly a battle for who has the cooler hair in a breeze. Let's talk about it. Felipe Jungle Boy Lima coming in as a minus 180 favorite with a record of 14-1. This man fights like someone who was raised by capoeira masters and jiu-jitsu jaguars. Lima is a wild, dynamic striker with all the fun stuff. Flying knees, spinning back fists, jumping switch kicks. Basically the Street Fighter character you'd pick if you wanted to piss off your friend. But don't be fooled. He's not just out here for TikTok highlights. He can grapple too. His UFC debut, just a little thing called a performance of the night. He walked in on short notice, said, "Hey Muhammad Naimov, want to see a magic trick?" And poof, submitted him with style. Lima's like that guy at the gym who throws fancy kicks and everyone assumes he has no ground game. Until they wake up tapping to an omoplata. His only real concern, that gas tank. When he's fresh, he's a problem. When he's tired, he's, well, still a problem. But more like Windows 98 trying to load a YouTube video. Still, he's constantly moving, always looking to create openings, and will threaten submissions off his back if you even think about relaxing on top of him. In short, he's dangerous, he's flashy, and he ain't afraid to pull the trigger. Next up is Peyton Talbot, coming in as a minus 150 with a record of 9-1. Peyton Talbot was once the golden child. The UFC broadcast team had him penciled in for a title shot, a movie deal, and his own NFT. He was destroying dudes in seconds, dropping people like they owed him rent. That knockout of Yanis Gamori, violence. That TKO of Simon, vicious. But then, along came Raoni Barcelos, the gatekeeper of hype trains, who looked at Talbot like, "This is your king?" And Peyton folded. Not permanently, but it was a rough one. The volume wasn't there. The urgency was missing. He fought like a guy who just found out his Starbucks order got messed up and never mentally recovered. Talbot still has that long-range, fluid, O'Malley-esque striking style. When he's on, he's a sniper with cardio. But when he's off, it's like someone unplugged the controller. What was worrying in that last fight wasn't just that he lost, it was how he lost. He got controlled, Didn't fight the hands, didn't sprawl, didn't scramble. It was as if grappling was something he only trained on Thursdays if there wasn't pickleball. But he's still young, still talented, and you know the UFC wants this kid to win. They're probably already halfway through editing the Peyton Talbot redemption arc embedded episode. So, who wins? If Peyton comes out looking like pre-Barcelos Talbot, loose, fast, and fired up, he can absolutely light up the feet. He's longer, has good timing, and can overwhelm with volume. But he's got to be early and often with it, or else Lima is going to close the distance, wrap him up, and make him feel like he's been dumped in a Brazilian jiu-jitsu jungle gym. If this stays standing for long periods, Peyton might still have the edge. But he hasn't proven he can stop the takedowns, hasn't shown urgency when he's losing minutes, and Lima will go for the neck, or the leg, or whatever limb is closest. Official pick, Felipe Lima, until Peyton Talbot shows he can stuff takedowns, scramble up, and keep up the pace against a pressure-heavy grappler. I can't ride with him. Lima's the more complete fighter right now, and if he mixes in the takedowns and avoids gassing out too early, he'll win rounds and maybe even find a finish. The jungle's calling, and it doesn't want TikToks, it wants tap-outs. Next up, we got Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van. One's called Raw Dog, I will never be able to say that with a straight face. And the other's Fearless, which is MMA code for will throw hands at absolutely anyone, including while filling out a W-2. Let's get into it. Brandon Raw Dog Royval coming in as a minus 115 favorite with a record of 17-7. Brandon Royval fights like he's been dared to win a bonus or get knocked out, no in between. This guy doesn't have a slow gear. He sprints at you like you just insulted his mom, throws every limb at once, and somewhere in there wraps you up in a choke while yelling, "You started this!" He's an elite scrambler, a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and fights like he drank 5 Red Bulls and chased it with a flying knee. You want to wrestle him? Cool, he'll somersault into a guillotine. You want to strike? He'll jump into a knee that was aimed at your soul. But that chaos comes with a cost. He's hittable, like really hittable. Not take a shot to give a shot hittable. More like you land one clean and suddenly he's doing a backflip off the cage for no reason. Royval's been submitted, TKO'd, and ground controlled when his anime level energy didn't pay off. Still, he's ranked #1 in the division for a reason. His recent win over Tatsuro Taira showed that he can pace himself, make adjustments, and grind it out like a seasoned vet. But it still looked like someone had shoved fast forward on the remote. Joshua the Fearless Van, coming in as a minus 105 underdog with a record of 14-2. Joshua Van may be only 23 years old, but this kid already has the grizzled vet energy of someone who just doesn't care what your name is. He took this fight on short notice like someone who misread the invite and thought he was going to a pool party. Van is slick, patient, and dangerous. He's not just fearless by nickname. He'll walk down high-ranked fighters, read their timing like a book, and counter them like he's playing UFC 5 on career mode. His striking is clean, he's fast, like don't blink fast, and he's got sneaky power that he hides behind calm, calculated movement. What's most impressive is his positional awareness. He doesn't just flail in grappling exchanges, he floats, advances, and pounces when there's blood in the water. Also, he's fought more in the last 10 months than some fighters have Instagram sponsors. The man stays active like a UFC version of that friend who always says yes to pick up basketball no matter what time it is. But let's be real, this is a big step up. Royval is chaos with a black belt. He's fought the best in the world. Van hasn't been in deep waters like this yet, and short notice against a lunatic like Royval is kind of like saying, sure, I'll wrestle that alligator, but only for a minute. Still, Van's got the composure and tools to make this interesting. So, who wins? Here's what we're looking at. If Van stays calm and sticks to technical counters, he can make Royval's wild style work against him. He's going to have to survive a whirlwind of knees, chokes, elbows, and spinning fireballs. But if he does, he can start to pick Royval apart. But Royval lives in chaos. He thrives in it. If this turns into a scramble fest, you're in Raw Dog's house, and the furniture is made of arm triangles and flying triangles. This is one of those fights that could go 15 minutes of madness or end in a minute via backtake and neck crank. Either way, you won't blink. Official pick, Joshua Van Call. It guts, call it potential, call it blind optimism. Van's poised, patient, and precise. If he doesn't get sucked into the hurricane, I think he clips Royval in those chaotic exchanges and takes over as the fight goes on. But if you see a flying armbar out of nowhere, well, that's Raw Dog doing Raw Dog things. Alright folks, get your jiu-jitsu instructional DVDs out and cue the No One Likes Southpaws playlist because we've got a gritty, nerdy, cerebral violence fest on our hands. This is Beneil Benny Dariush versus Renato Money Moicano. And if there was ever a fight to end with a post-fight TED Talk, this is the one. Let's dive in. Beneil Benny Dariush, the calm assassin who looks like he should be your Sunday school teacher. Coming in as a plus 120 underdog with a record of 22-6, Benny is a man of faith, jiu-jitsu, and certified violence. At first glance, he looks like he should be tutoring calculus or leading a men's Bible study, not blasting people with left hands and choking them into existential crises. But don't let the demeanor fool you. This man has sent people to the shadow realm with a variety of tools, and he's just as dangerous as he is humble. Now yes, he's on a 2-fight losing streak, but those losses were to Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan, who are basically two of the worst people you could schedule back-to-back unless you're writing a horror film called Tap or Nap, The Lightweight Chronicles. Charles melted him with that patented swarming style, and Arman hit him so hard it made Dariush rethink the concept of sound. But prior to that, Benny was rolling. He was out-grappling grapplers, out-striking strikers, and even briefly convincing people he might be next in line for the title. His striking has come a long way under Rafael Cordero. He throws that left hand like he's mad at your spine, and his kicks sneak up on you like bad credit. The man has underrated leg kicks, surprising knees, and that pressure style that turns confident opponents into exhausted, flailing noodles by round 2. But, and here's the oh no part, he's been knocked out in 2 straight. The chin may be fading, the confidence might be dipping, and in this division where even the octagon air is dangerous, that's a serious problem. Serious. On the other side, we have Renato Money Moicano, a minus 150 favorite with a record of 20-6, and probably the only man on the UFC roster who uses Grammarly on post-fight speeches. Moicano's been on a fun little run lately, finishing people and then immediately asking where the books are at. This man's ground game is slick. I mean, snake and baby oil slick. He's tied for 4th most rear naked choke wins in UFC history, and is basically the human equivalent of someone whispering "you're doing fine" into your ear while slowly constricting your breathing. He's always hunting for the back, and once he's there, your only options are tap, nap, or a very bad Tuesday. He's also developed some pretty sharp striking. His jab is accurate, his kicks are sharp, and his clinch wrestling is deceptively nasty. He uses body locks the way your aunt uses guilt, relentlessly and effectively. His cardio is solid, his durability is decent, and when he's in control, he looks like a lightweight world beater. But, and again there's always a but, Moicano is not invincible. He's had trouble against southpaws, especially with left hands to the head and body. It's like his internal GPS goes haywire anytime someone fights out of the opposite stance. Plus, while his striking is technically sound, it's not particularly powerful. If you push the pace and don't let him get comfy, you can rattle him. And yes, he's been stopped before, repeatedly. So what happens when you toss him in the cage with a guy who throws heat with that very same southpaw left and has black belts in both BJJ and Muay Thai? You get a deliciously awkward and chaotic technical brawl. So who wins? This is a painfully close matchup. Both guys can win this on any given day. Moicano is probably the better technical grappler and has the cleaner process. He's calmer under fire, better at controlling top position, and he's got that "I'll take your back if you sneeze too hard" energy. If he can stay composed, jab Benny up, and mix in the clinch, he can edge a decision or maybe even take the back for the finish. But, and this is where your gut starts whispering wild things, Dariush still has that wild man spark. When he's not getting caught, he's a chaos engine. His left hand is nasty, his kicks are heavy, and his ground game is no slouch either. He doesn't mind scrambling, and if Moicano's entries aren't airtight, Benny could flip the script. Official pick, Beneil Dariush. Look, I'm picking Benny here with extremely low confidence and one hand nervously hovering over the "why did I do this" button. But I think if he avoids getting stuck underneath Moicano early and keeps this on the feet, he has the power and volume edge. I also think he knows his back is against the wall here and he's going to come in aggressive. Give me Dariush by chaotic striking battle turned gritty decision, possibly with both guys yelling about grammar and faith in the post-fight interview. Bless this beautiful violence. Ladies and gentlemen, step right up for your co-main course, because we've got a flyweight title fight, and the champ's nickname is the Cannibal. That's right, Alexandre Pantoja just skipped the metaphor and went full Hannibal Lecter with 4-ounce gloves. And standing across from him, it's Kai Don't Blink Kara France, because if you do, He might have already knocked you out, done a shui with Tai Tuivasa, and asked for a rematch with Brandon Moreno. Let's cook. Kai Don't Blink, Kara France, the stocky sniper from New Zealand. Coming in as a plus 210 underdog with a record of 25-11, Kai Kara France is what happens when you take a rugby player, shrink him down to 125 pounds, and teach him how to jab people into another dimension. He's compact, he's powerful, he moves like a tank on rollerblades, and his right hand has ended more conversations than an awkward political comment at Thanksgiving. Kai's a striker, through and through. We're talking crisp jab, cannonball overhand right, nasty left hook, and body kicks that sound like someone slapping a frozen steak on a countertop. He doesn't just throw heat, he throws heat strategically. Feints, angles, setups. He's like a flyweight sniper who also just happens to bench 275. But let's not ignore the elephant in the cage. The man's had more injuries than a guy trying to backflip off a trampoline into a kiddie pool. He hasn't been very active lately, which means there's always that lurking question. Is ring rust real, or is it just fighter astrology? Defensively though, the guy's underrated. He's not a wrestler, but his takedown defense is stout, especially against guys who try to spam doubles like they're playing UFC 4 on rookie mode. He sprawls, he scrambles, and when you think you've got him, boom, he's back on his feet looking annoyed. But the mission here is clear. Keep it standing, keep it clean, and don't get eaten alive early. That's a big ask when your opponent's nickname sounds like a deleted scene from The Revenant. Alexander the Cannibal Pantoja, the flyweight Leatherface. Here comes the champ, the man, the myth, the meat eater. Alexander Pantoja enters this fight at minus 270 with a 29-5 record, a 7-fight win streak, and the fighting style of someone who just got told the buffet closes in 5 minutes. Pantoja is pressure incarnate. He walks you down like a guy trying to return a broken air fryer to Walmart. He is not taking no for an answer. He doesn't always look polished, but he's relentless, swings with mean intentions, shoots takedowns with fury, and if he gets your back, game over. Collect your I Tried t-shirt at the door. 11 submission wins, 8 KOs, and 0 fear. His striking has gotten sharper, and his cardio, while not flawless, usually holds up just long enough to drown you in volume and jiu-jitsu nightmares. If Kai lets Pantoja back him into the fence, he's not getting hugged, he's getting consumed, like slow cooked with spices and a side of elbows. But, and this is where things get interesting, Pantoja has been known to slow down. Not dramatically, not always, but if you survive his storm and keep your lungs, you might just find yourself turning the tide. Think of it like weathering a hurricane, except the hurricane's bilingual and trying to take your back. So, who wins? It all comes down to distance, cardio, and whether Kai brought a really big can of Raid to deal with this swarm of fists, chokes, and cage pressure. If Kai can keep the fight at range, jab the eyebrows off Pantoja, and circle like a madman, he has the cleaner striking and the better gas tank in rounds 4 and 5. But that first 10 minutes, it's going to feel like trying to play chess against a bear with boxing gloves. If Pantoja gets on the inside, if he drags Kai down or pins him to the cage like a bulletin board, things could unravel fast. Still, there's a real path here. Kai's striking defense is good, his counters are nasty, and Pantoja's hittable. Plus, it's MMA. We've seen crazier things than a Kiwi underdog boxing up a Wildman champion. Official pick, Kai Kara France. I'm going with the upset here. Call me crazy, call me irresponsible, call me 5 minutes late for a shoey, but I think Kai survives the early surge, finds his rhythm, and turns this into a striking clinic late. Give me Kai Kara France via late round surge or decision, possibly after taking a round or two to escape being backpacked like a freshman on a Europe trip. If he keeps it standing, he can edge it out. Let's just hope no blinking happens in rounds 1 and 2. Or we might miss the part where Pantoja tries to take his spleen home. All right, folks, it's time. Main event, vacant belt, violence incoming. Ilia El Matador Topuria, the undefeated phenom with slick hair and hands like Thor's hammer, against Charles Du Bronx Oliveira, who has submitted more people than Apple's terms and conditions. This isn't just a title fight, this is a theology debate. Can power and polish beat chaos and faith? Let's get into it. Ilia El Matador Topuria, the man, the myth, the matador, minus the cape. Topuria comes in a minus 420 favorite. That's not just Vegas confidence, that's your aunt already put money on him and doesn't even watch MMA levels of hype. He's 16-0 and somehow manages to look both like a supermodel and someone who would happily elbow you unconscious in a parking lot. Ilia has 2 moods in the cage. 1, walk you down like he's checking for parking violations, and 2, punch you until you regret every decision that led you here. His boxing is laser sharp, and he doesn't just swing. He invests in body shots like he's building a 401k. People talk about Topuria's hands, but don't sleep on the grappling. Dude has a Greco-Roman background and a BJJ black belt, which basically means if you clinch with him, you better have a backup plan and a will. He tossed around Bryce Mitchell like a gym towel. If he gets on top of you, you're either tapping or tweeting from the canvas. His fight IQ is high, his cage pressure is relentless, and he enters every bout looking like he's trying to collect rent. And yet, for all this dominance, he's still never faced a man quite like Do Bronx. A Charles Do Bronx Oliveira, the human submission machine, now entering the chat. A plus 320 underdog with 35 wins, 20 finishes, 16 submissions, and enough chaos energy to power the Las Vegas Strip for a week. Charles Oliveira doesn't walk into fights. He glides. He's that rare fighter who at any moment can be winning, losing, unconscious, and dangerous all at once. You could knock him down and he'll stand up like, cool, now I'll submit you. He's a Muay Thai lunatic with sniper knees, front kicks, and those freaky long arms that somehow make guillotines appear out of thin air. His striking has come so far, people forget the man used to get hit like his controller disconnected. These days, he's starching dudes like Chandler and Dariush before they can even adjust their mouth guards. And on the mat, look, if you're within 6 inches of his legs, you're basically signing up for a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu seminar. Whether you meant to or not, his back takes are faster than Amazon Prime, and his guard, it's not defensive, it's weaponized. If you jump on him thinking ground and pound, the next frame is you getting triangled while your corner man screams in Portuguese. Sure, he's been knocked out before, sure, he gets dropped in fights like it's a trust exercise, but Oliveira lives in the fire. The dude has made a career out of being 90% dead and 100% dangerous. So, who wins? This is the classic clean composed killer versus wild, violent chaos magician matchup. Topuria will want to pressure, pick Charles apart on the feet, and mix in that suffocating top game if he senses any instability. He's got the power, the polish, and the undefeated aura. But Charles is like a final boss you fight 3 times. You knock him down and then he comes back stronger, but now with glowing red eyes and the ability to teleport. You take him down? Cool, now he's wrapping your limbs like he's folding laundry. If Charles can survive the early storm, and that's a big if, he thrives in scrambles, chaos, and momentum swings. The man doesn't just finish fights, he steals souls. Official pick, Charles Oliveira. Call me crazy, call me emotional, call me someone who's been hurt by betting against Charles before, but I'm going Do Bronx. I think Topuria lands big early, maybe even gets Charles to that uh-oh place. But Charles weathers it, drags him into some second-round anarchy, and pulls a rabbit and a rear-naked choke out of his hat. Give me Charles Oliveira via wild, magical, what-the-hell-just-happened submission somewhere in the middle rounds. Viva Do Bronx, let chaos reign. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a beat when the next video drops. And don't be shy. Leave a comment below and let me know who you got winning this fight. Let's see who really has the crystal ball around here. Until next time.